Alright, so. Alrighty, so who's the president?
Don't you want to start out by saying this is...
It doesn't matter, I'll cut all this out anyway.
Ah!
Alright, so.
Go ahead.
Alright, doing the 1950s. Here you, what's your name?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, I'm Bruce Faust, born in 1940. Therefore, during the 50s, I was in my teenage years.
Alrighty. Who's president during the decade?
I think Eisenhower, Being a teenager, I didn't care too much about who was and who wasn't in politics.
Yep, alright. How much was, like, bread and gas and whatnot?
Well, things were pretty cheap, but of course we didn't make any money. But I think bread was like 18, 20 cents a loaf, and I know gasoline was in the low 20s, 22, 24 cents a gallon.
What was, like, the general income per year? Like, now it's about, like, 40.
Now it's about 40. I would say then it was probably 10 or 12. Yeah. 1,000, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, who was, like, a popular song artist back then?
Well, I was raised in the early rock and roll days. You hear about the guys, the Elvis Presley, the Richie Valens, Connie Francis, the old rock and rollers.
That's pretty cool, man. What'd you guys, like, go out and do for fun? Was there any, like,
the only other thing
activities?
that we did, which you don't have around here, was the drive-in theaters.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We used to go into those almost every night.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Also, was there any, like, popular movies or, like, TV shows you remember?
Well, for TV, we didn't have a lot of TV in the 50s. In the late 50s, I guess, maybe. But I can remember being about 12 or 13 or something, and only one guy in the whole neighborhood block had a television. And us kids would go and hang out on his porch and look through his window at this television. Because nobody had television in those days.
That's cool. Was there any, like, wars that were in the 50s?
Well, let me think. Korean War, I believe, was in the 50s. I had a brother-in-law who was in the Korean War. Vietnam was starting to generate a lot of international problems. I was in the service. I joined the service in 1958. Was until 1962. I was in the Air Force, and I think Vietnam was just starting to cause some major problems around 61, 62. But we weren't at war with them at that time yet.
Alrighty, was there any, like, civil conflicts within the country?
Well, we always had racial conflicts. Again, being a teenager, I wasn't interested in politics or anything, but we'd hear about them. Mostly the blacks, whites against the blacks. The blacks weren't allowed to do this and weren't allowed to do that. Couldn't use the same bathrooms. Couldn't drink out of the same water fountains and things. That was in the early 50s, but that was all the conflicts I knew. Again, I wasn't interested in the world in those days.
It's pretty interesting stuff right there.
Yeah.
Is there any, like, major differences you can think of from, like, today and, like, the 50s? Or, like, stuff from the 50s that you wish you had from today that's useful?
Well, I think us kids in those days had more respect for policemen, firemen, teachers, adults. Seems to me that right now kids don't really respect anybody or anything. They're pretty much spoiled. They got all the electronic gadgets. They all got a car. They all got this. They all got that. And seems like they don't have the respect like we used to have when we were kids.
Alrighty, thank you for the interview today, and there you go.